بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته دعوة ديال كسر دعوة برنامج كيني كنا كجمعها وبرنامج أن قبلنا مالي والبقى جمعها مركي ساعة يوكي تهاي تدبض في نمو كنا بيغن سجال كفيد نمو إيست أفريكان تايم سياد ولا سعوت برنامج هذا العسب صوص سعودة أن قبل دونه فضلا وحبوقة ويب سايت كأن لنا هاي معلن abdullah.com kaasoo idinkaga muuqanaya lifaaqan xagga hoose haddii uu ku dhaafo barnaamijka ama haddii aad u baahan tahay inaad ku ceshato ama aad ka bogato fadlan waxaa booqataa barta aan ku leenahay youtube-ka ee GlobalNet kaasoo idinkaga muuqanaya lifaaqa xagga hoose barnaamijka maanta waa mid leh ahamiyadiisa iyo culayskiisa sida aad la socotaan dunida waxaa hakad geliyey cudurka loo yaqaan COVID-19 wuxuu isbedel weyn ku sameeyay hanaanka ama nidaamka loo qabto shaqooyinka shirkado badan oo dunida ka mid ah ayaa shaqaalahooda u ogolaaday gabi ahaanba inay ka soo shaqo tagaan xaafadahooda ama guryahooda waxaa bilaabmay dood cusub oo ku saabsan in nidaamkan uu noqon doono nidaam joogto ah oo loo shaqeeyo haddaba xirfado noocee oo kale ayaad u baahan tahay si aad xaafadaada uga soo shaqo tagto intee in la eg ayay kugu qaadan kartaa inaad xirfadaha barato ama aad yeelato suurtagal ma tahay inaad laptopkaada qaadato oo aad tagto meel kasta oo ka mid ah dunida ama goob kasta oo ka mid ah dunida oo aad ka soo shaqo tagto su'aalaha iyo kuwo kale oo la mid ah ayaan ku faahfaahin doonaa ku gorfayn doonaa barnaamijka maanta ee kulanka jimcaha barnaamijka maanta waxaa marti noogu ah aqoon-yahan ama khabiir ku takhasusay culumta IT-ga kuna soo shaqeeyay in ka badan 24 sannadood una soo shaqeeyay hay-ado ama shirkado aad u waaweyn oo ku baahsan dunida daafaheeda fadlan si wanaagsan ula socda barnaamijkan si aad uga faa'iidaysataan aadna u dhuuxdaan xigmadaha iyo aqoonta ku duugan daawasho wacan oo wanaagsan
My name is Murad. I been working in IT for the last 24 years, most of it in the financial services industry. I've known Brother Abdullah for a few years now, and I have spoken to quite a few of the GlobalNet students and alumni over the last few years. And, you know, one of the things that I've found that, you know, there's a great pleasure that I personally get from having the opportunity to speak to everybody and see the enthusiasm that they have for getting into the IT fields, and that's why I'm here to continue and help in any way that I can. I have spent the last 15 years as a team lead manager, hiring manager, and one of the things I like about helping the GlobalNet crew is the enthusiasm and the drive and motivation that they all show to get into IT. We're talking about remote working, and I think that everybody on this call is interested in working remotely, but possibly thinks that there's something stopping them from doing that. If anybody has dialed into the Menti, I'm not sure how many people have, but I'd like to know either on the chat room, on the Zoom chat, or posting in here, what you think your biggest barrier to working remotely is at the moment, and what is it that you feel needs to change internally, externally, that will help you get to a position where you could end up working from home. So anything that you think is causing you not to be able to get a remote working job right now. I'm all going to look at the chat as well. Okay. So far, yeah, experience is the key. And when I covered this question in the Q&A session a few weeks ago, when people asked specifically about remote working, what was the type of barriers that people felt, what could be stopping people from getting it. And the one thing I mentioned, the most important thing, was skills and experience. So like you say, that is the key. And there is no substitute for those two things when it comes to trying to work remotely. And the main reason is that if you're not in an office, you're more difficult to train, you're more difficult to supervise. And as a result of that, if you're not able to work independently and autonomously and be productive by yourself, and you rely on other people, then you are not going to be a productive member of staff. So when people are looking for somebody specifically for a role that is advertised as remote working, they expect that person to be able to contribute with minimal interaction and minimal intervention from other members of staff. Obviously, in any new company, there's always going to be some training. There's going to be some onboarding of a person and integration within the company. It all depends on whether that company is a work from home company or whether it's generally a work from office with the ability to work from home. And also whether the role is working with people internally or externally, i.e., a lot of roles you work for a company, but most of your interaction is with external people, mostly customers and clients. So that all of those things factor into how likely you are to be able to get a role in a remote capacity. The best answer there is the Wi-Fi is their biggest barrier to working remotely. That's a good one. Right, so can I work remotely or from home? This is a copy of a slide I covered in the session a few weeks ago. I said that, yes, working from home is a growing trend. There's no doubt about it. You can see that on a year-by-year basis, from the year 2005 to today, the remote working has increased every 5 years by at least 60 to 70%. So between 2005 and 2010, it went up 60%. By 2015, it was up 120%. And I think that in the last 3-4 months, obviously, we've seen a huge increase, albeit temporary. But the fact that it has been enabled and has changed people's minds about working from home, both the person working from home and the people who are running the companies and supervising them, they all can see now that working from home is a much more viable option than it ever was. So that recent lockdown has removed many of the previous barriers and mindsets around working from home. As a result of that, companies will consider it as either a cost-saving initiative or a cultural shift. Companies that want to be more up-to-date, more trending, offer better benefits and better culture within the company, they will see that working from home is now something that they can offer as a standard within the company's working practices that people will see as beneficial and may attract them more to one role versus another. However, as we've said, it's difficult to get remote working roles without previous experience, and for the reasons I said earlier, that when they hire somebody and their person is not there to be seen, trained, and supervised, they're expecting somebody with experience, somebody that's going to be able to contribute, as they say, hit the ground running. And that is really that is to me the biggest barrier to working from home, for specifically with roles that are expected to work from home. It doesn't mean that you can't get a job that is based in the office and have opportunities to work from home either once a week, once every fortnight, or once every month. That's still possible. But a role that is primarily based at home, where you come into the office once a week, or twice a month, or once a month, or just when you feel you need to, those opportunities expect people with experience. So, and you need to yourself be very disciplined and have a suitable working environment. When I say discipline, is that it's easy to waste time when you're at home. It's easy to pass time when you're at home. It's easy to do other things that are not work related. It's easy to speak on the phone. It's easy to your friends and family. It's easy to watch TV, watch a movie when you should be getting work done. If you have an environment that is distracting because of other family members that are at home at the same time, as we've all experienced over this lockdown period, or you have, as someone mentioned, bad Wi-Fi, all of these lead to a situation where you're not able to be productive, or you look unprofessional. And as a result of that, your trustworthiness or your integrity can be damaged, and your work from home privileges, because it's still seen as a privilege rather than a right, can be removed. So you may find that you have an agreement where you can work from home, but if you do not pass the test of time, you will easily find yourself back in a situation where you're told to come back to the office. And then that always leads to tension and bad feelings between manager and employee, and eventually you end up leaving because you're no longer happy with the role. You need to demonstrate while you're working from home that you are a self-motivated person and you're driven to do as good as well as anybody else, or even better. And that's why they're happy to have you working from home. This is something that's actually the most important. Every time I've heard somebody complain about somebody's working from home privileges, the answers that always come back from a manager is that this person does more work than anybody else. If that person leaves, the whole company is going to be in trouble. Their experience is more valuable than anyone else's, or they are more productive from home than in the office, or they are willing to work hours that no one else would be willing to work if they came to the office, i.e. they're happy to start working at 6 a.m. and they're happy to dial in at midnight if there's an issue, or they're happy to do Asia hours when necessary. But as soon as they start coming into the office, those options become less of a viable solution for a worker. They have to get on a train, they have to commute either way, they're extra tired as a result of that. They don't get other things done in their personal life, which means that when they do go home, they need to focus on home life. Whereas when they're working from home, they can multitask with some personal things when possible. So they believe that you are more productive in that environment, but you have to show that you are motivated, if not more, at least just as much as everybody else when you are working from home. And most importantly, like I said, if you want to work from home, you have to earn guru status. You have to be somebody that everybody goes to, the fountain of knowledge, the oracle, whatever the word is, the person that people believe is the subject matter expert. And this is something that I've seen over and over again everywhere I've worked. If you are the guru, you can do anything you want. You can say, I'm working from home tomorrow. You can say, I'm working from home for the rest of the week. You can not say you're doing anything. You can start working from home and someone says, hey, what's going on? You say, yeah, I'm working from home today. And, because I've got some issues I need to deal with. And everybody's going, yeah, man, anything you want. You're the man. I've heard this so many times, that someone is so important to the team and so well respected and so well trusted, the most important thing, so well trusted that they know that this person does not have anything about their integrity to question. If this person needs to work from home, they need to work from home, but they know this person is not just working, this person is delivering. This is something that I've seen more than anything else. And all of these things happen over time. They don't come you don't earn this in the interview. You have to prove that you are somebody that can deliver and that you have the experience and the trustworthiness. And they have to feel that you are the person that delivers for them, and you can have anything you want. So can you work remotely? Can you work from home? Absolutely. But can you do that on your first job in IT? Probably not. Can you do that in your career as you go? For sure. In 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, there may not even be any offices to work in, for all we know, after this experiment we've had over the last 4 or 5 months. We may see a shift in people in offices and companies willing to spend money on very expensive rentals for offices in town centres and city centres like London and Birmingham. Why spend the money to have 200, 300 people, 400, 500, 2,000 people in an office building when they could save millions every year by allowing people to work from home? So you may find that over time it becomes a norm, but for the next few years, it's still going to be the way it is. When people go back to work, some will, some won't. But over the next 18 months, we will return to something fairly similar to what we've been used to. But there will be some extra opportunities as a result of what's happened in the last few months. So, question back to you guys who've joined the Mentee or on the chat. What job do you see yourself being able to do from a remote location? Hopefully we're talking about IT jobs, but if there's anything that you think of, what is it that you think you will be able to do from, realistically as a work from home? Cool, yeah. So the answers we're seeing here are all exactly the types of roles that most people have, that when you look at the current market of people working from home now, a lot of the roles that you're seeing are exactly these roles. Again, we're talking about technology only, IT only. The IT consultant, the freelance IT consultant, can stay at home all the time, wait for jobs to come in, either by advertising their services or by having their CV with recruitment companies that specialize in contract workers. But when they do get a role, not all of those roles are going to be work from home. They could be on site. But in between roles, they're spending all their time at home and they're doing their own thing, managing their website, calling potential clients, whatever it is. But outside of roles where you are in a permanent capacity, web development, cybersecurity, service desk, first line support, cloud-based application support, all of these things are much more viable to remote working situations, because in the example that I talked about a few weeks ago, the service desk analogy is something that's becoming more and more viable, because there's a lot of applications and software that enable virtualized help desk. You can have an app on your PC at home, on your laptop, that is connected to the voice over IP network of whichever call center, and you are now virtually part of that network, and when anybody calls a call center, it redirects to your application on your laptop or your PC, and you can answer the call from your home. So this is something that's becoming more and more able over the last few years. Call centers spend a lot of money on big premises, warehouse-sized premises, to hold call centers and have all the digital tracking of their calls and wait times, ring-off times, statistics about the services that they're providing, but those are all part of an application that can also be running on the cloud and still be used to collect data, even though the person is working from home. This also means that they can provide 24-hour support and have people working in shift from one location. They don't need to always offer roles that are around in other regions just to keep the follow the sun model alive. Web development, cybersecurity, all of these roles that allow you to either develop and program or sit there in doing investigative type work, they're all things that are becoming more and more available as work from anywhere, work from home solutions. But we are seeing it more and more. But in order to do those jobs, web development, network security, you have to obviously know your stuff. So, but that's good. I mean, it looks like you guys obviously are hopefully looking to get into these types of areas, which is why you're interested in working from home. One of the other things that the digital marketer, people not really sure whether that's an IT job or a marketing job or a social media. There's different ways, but you're right. It's at the end of the day, it's a role that you can do from anywhere. You can do it from your phone. You can do it from the train. It depends what exactly you're marketing and how you're choosing to market the role. Cool. So, what remote working roles can I expect to get? So a lot of the answers that we saw on the previous page are exactly here, which is service desk analyst. So as I mentioned, the type of roles where you're doing service request fulfillment, level 1 support, call logging, ticket escalation, you just need to be on the end of a phone, and you need to be able to answer calls from that are going to a centralized help desk. And the software is available now that allows these call centers to run to everyone dialed in to a application to be part of a virtual service desk. So these roles are now starting to appear, work from anywhere, at home, service desk, support people, first level support. So we are seeing more and more of these. System administrator. So this is something that it's a little bit like a level 1 support or service request, but it's specifically targeted to certain applications, mostly database related. Sometimes you need SQL skills to go with it. These roles are available for people that can add rights, user rights, give people access to things that they don't currently have. They don't need to be in the office. They don't need to be physically present with the user. The user just says, I need access to this. They're called the system administrator. The system administrator can be at home. Also, the system administrator can do a lot of housekeeping jobs, archiving, backups, all the types of things that need to be done outside of normal hours. They need to be done when the business is not running. So some of those jobs need to run after 8 p.m., after midnight, before the next morning. So they are working from home in order to make sure that those jobs run safely and do not error, and they are dialing in at sometimes unsociable hours. So if they've got some work to do during the day, they do it, but if they're also available at night, they're allowed to work from home because they are there whenever someone needs it. And this is, again, going back to what I said, if you're somebody that's always there, always delivering, always trustworthy, and you're willing to work hours that other people wouldn't necessarily work, guess what? They're more than happy to allow you to work from home. Web developer. So a whole set of skills are prerequisite to becoming a web developer. You're not a web developer if you don't know HTML, CSS, JavaScript. If you don't know about some of the newer technologies, Bootstrap, Node.js, AngularJS, Django, PHP. If you're not familiar with at least 2 or 3 of these development tools and languages, you're not really a web developer, and you're not really going to be able to pose as a web developer. You wouldn't get past the technical rounds. And if you're a web developer, you should have a portfolio of websites that you've built. So if you are thinking of getting into web development, learning at least 2 or 3 of these languages and skills is essential. And if you want to become a web developer, you need to have developed some websites by yourself. So you need a project. You can't learn to develop websites without developing any website. And if you go to a web development interview, they will test you technically, but they'll also expect to see some websites that you have worked on, and they'll ask you what specific functions did you develop on that website and how does it work. But these are things you can get into if you are looking for opportunities to work from home. Web development is definitely one of the most viable, both as a permanent role or as an IT consultant who advertises their services to build websites for anyone who's looking for a site to be developed. On the one side, you don't have to be as technical on web development because there's lots of tools out there now, Squarespace and strikingly, there's another one that just Wix, exactly. All of these tools out there that allow people to build their own websites using a UI, but there's still a lot of people that are so technophobic that they don't even think that they can manage to build a website in WordPress or Wix or Squarespace or Strikingly. So they still need somebody to come and help them use those tools that don't require any web development skills. So you can even start advertising yourself as somebody that is quite artistic and quite good at setting up websites for people using any of the templated tools that are out there before you even learn how to use HTML and CSS and JavaScript. The Cloud Platform Engineer Solutions Architect. So you'd be glad to know that everyone that's currently doing an AWS course has a opportunity in the future to get roles with work from home capabilities. As it's on the cloud, just by its nature, you can access it from anywhere, and you can administer it and develop it and build it from anywhere. It's on the cloud. So obviously, working from home is definitely something that's going to come as an opportunity. And as cloud grows, and most companies start to rely on cloud more than ever, either fully or partially, roles will continue to grow in this particular field. But doing the AWS or Azure and Google Cloud Platform certifications on their own will not get you a job. You need to be able to back it up with some technical skills. You need to know Linux, Bash, Python. You have to be able to develop on the cloud. You have to be able to build on the cloud. And you have to be able to service the cloud. This is very important. And I mentioned this with every time we talk about cloud on the call last week and previously on other Q&A sessions. The cloud it presents you with an infrastructure just like it's a virtual data center. You don't care where it is, you don't know where it is, you don't need to know where it is. But you have to understand, once you've installed something in the cloud, you own it and you have to be able to work with it. So if you have a physical data center in your building in the basement and there's a Linux box in there, and if something goes wrong with the Linux box and you don't know how to even check whether the disk is full, whether it's using too much memory, you don't know how to check what processes are running because there's no task manager. If you don't know how to do that in your physical data center in the building, in the basement, you will not know how to do that on the cloud. So you still need the skills for the application level skills and the operating level skills and the platform level skills in order to succeed as a cloud engineer or a solutions architect. So just, keep that in mind. Software engineer, i.e. a pure, not just a web developer, but a pure coder, the real hardcore development languages. Python is good for everything, but it's still used as a very strong object-oriented development language. Java, C++, and the list is growing every day. You've got Ruby, you've got Kotlin, you've got Django, you've got all of these things that are coming in that are advertising the ability to become a full stack developer, because they serve both back-end and front-end technology. So these are the types of skills that are very much sought after these days, and if you are good at it, I can guarantee you that if you were in an interview and you were the person that they wanted, you would easily negotiate to work from home, even if it's not advertised as a work from home job. You would, even in the interview, you can negotiate a work from home situation once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, if you're that good. This is why I say, if you're a guru, you can ask for anything. So obviously, these are the types of things you can be aiming to do. These are not quick. Obviously, if you look at them in the order that they're listed, I think that's the order in which you can become proficient in them. Service desk analyst, system administrator, web developer, cloud platform engineer, software engineer. In that order, I would say that's the time to become proficient in each of those areas, growth with each one of those. So I would say, 3 to 6 months with the service desk, 6 to 12 months as a system administrator, 12 to 18 months as a proficient web developer. If you don't know anything about cloud today, I think it takes 2 years to become a guru level cloud platform engineer, not because of the cloud part, the AWS and Azure, but the platform part, not the infrastructure, the platform. Knowing Linux very well, knowing how to administer a Linux box, how to build it, how to make it work, how to performance tune it, how to make it work in relation to the application that you're building. You're not going to learn those skills overnight. Those all take time. And obviously, software engineering takes practice. Coding there's 2 parts to coding. There's learning the language, the syntax, and there's learning the techniques that make a programmer efficient and make somebody say, this guy or girl is a great programmer, a great coder. They really understand the concepts of coding, and they write very efficient code that's perfect for cloud development, for distributed systems and the like. So it takes time, but depending on what you want to aim for, that would be the order that I would say is in terms of time, how long each one will take. That's in the order of time, I think. So where can I find remote working opportunities? So assuming that you've now got to the point where you've got some skills and you want to find jobs, all the main job sites include remote jobs. It's not that Indeed and Monster and JobServe and CV Library, CW Jobs. They all contain jobs that include remote working. You just have to know how to search for them. You have to search for terms like, remote. So don't look for IT support engineer and then try and find which one of those are remote. Just search for remote. It's easier to search for remote because when the jobs are listed, you will see IT support engineer in the title. But if you search for IT support engineer, you don't know whether it's remote until you click on it and look at the job description and try to find whether it allows you to work from home. The search tools don't just search for the title, they search in the description of the job description itself. So if you want to find whether remote appears anywhere in the job description or at home, flexible work from anywhere, any location, any of these terms, search for that instead of the job title, and then look at what job titles show up and see whether any of those job titles are roles that you can go for. There are some specialist remote sites. So there's a couple of sites that are kind of UK-based, or at least advertise jobs that do have UK-based companies. Remoters.net, Flex Jobs, Remote Jobs. These are all websites that exist today. Don't get me wrong, they're not full of hundreds of jobs. Sometimes there's 3 jobs, sometimes there's 6 jobs, But again, going back to the previous slide, they're looking for people with specific skills, specific experience. You do see some jobs that are for junior level, but you can imagine there'll be a bit of competition for those jobs. But I'm just saying these sites do exist, and as you grow in your IT career, you will be able to use these sites and other job sites to find opportunities to work from home. Not for 2 reasons. One, because you're getting experience, and because there's more jobs that are offering work from home. The other way is that you can advertise your skills and make people come to you. So There's places like Upwork and Fiverr that we spoke about. I mentioned Fiverr. Fiverr is a website that you can advertise your skills as a freelancer. One of the most common jobs that people advertise is web development skills. People looking for someone to build a website, they advertise on places like Upwork and Fiverr just so people come to them. If you are able to do that and you've trained yourself to do that, you've built some websites and you think you can do it for other people, you can advertise your services. And some companies have their own initiatives. So Apple, I mentioned this, I think it was, I think I mentioned this on the Q&A. Apple have something called an at-home advisor. And if you go to Apple's website, you will see that there are some jobs in the UK looking specifically for at-home advisors. So if you're an Apple enthusiast, if you've had every iPhone since day one, if you always get the latest iOS and you know all the little tricks and tips, and when someone's explaining an issue with their iPad, you know what they're talking about and you can answer the question, you'd be a great Apple at-home advisor. And you just sit at home with your Mac or with your iPad and your iPhone, and you wait for someone to call, and you have a shift, and they call and you answer all the questions for Apple users in the UK. But they look for those people all the time. So before you can work from home, you have to get started in IT. And obviously, and I know a lot of you are at that stage. You're either a student or thinking of becoming a student, or have just finished a course, or have just certified in A+, Network Plus, CCNA, or you are actually working, but you're not really happy with the role you're doing. It's not what you wanted. You want to find that first real job in your career. And again, this is something that I've covered in previous slides, but I know not everybody has been on the previous meetings. So I want to reiterate all the things I said at that time. And most importantly, this is actually a precursor to getting a job in remote working. It's very important. You know, if you're not going to, the chances of you finding your first ever job as a remote working job is slim. We have to be realistic. So you've got to get started in IT. You've got to get your career going. So this is a shorter version of things I've covered on the previous calls. So like I said, number one, get qualified. You know, whether it's your university working on your degree, whether it's you're working on certifications like A+ and Network Plus, whether you're in a work apprenticeship program where you are currently getting like an NVQ level 3, level 4 type of thing, whether you're in a formal work experience or informal work experience, one of those ones where you know somebody who works somewhere and you can sit with them for 1 week or 2 weeks, not whether it's paid or unpaid, but just something that allows you to put something on your CV. Anything is better than nothing. Everything that you put on your CV that's relevant to the role that you're going for will help you more than if it's not on your CV. Knowing your stuff, right? If you're a technologist, if you're an IT person, whether you have experience or not, you need to know your stuff. You don't have to know everything, but you have to show that you have learned something. If you're going to get your first job in IT, what are you trying to go for? Is it a service desk, or is it a first line support? Why would somebody hire you in first line support? Why would somebody allow you to work from home remotely if you don't know anything? How will they train you if you're working from home? So you need to know your stuff. And this is not a formal qualification. It doesn't matter if you have a degree, a certification, an apprenticeship. When you go to an interview, you're going to be asked technical questions of some description. It may be physical hardware, it might be software related, it might be operating system related, it might be process related. It might be, do you know how to use a ticketing system? Whatever it is, you need to know your stuff. So this is something that's very important. I'm pretty sure that most of the people that fail interviews when it comes to technology is because their CV says one thing and their mouth says something else. So it's very important. Know your stuff. there's no end to things you can learn in technology. You could be working in technology for 50 years. You'll wake up the next morning and there's something brand new in IT. You need to learn. You need to keep learning. Building a good CV. So I'll say this on every single time I speak to everybody. You have to have a good CV. I've seen some CVs from the GlobalNet students. I've been, the last few weeks, last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I've seen quite a few. I've seen maybe at least 50, 60 CVs from not just GlobalNet students, but people who have sent me their CV and said, "Hey, can you help me? Can you have a look at my CV? Let me know." This is outside of my work and formal interview, and this is just somebody saying to me, "Can you have a look at my CV and let me know what you think and see if you can help me?" And there's 2 or 3 things on the CV that are always going to prevent you from getting even a response. The formatting of the CV, sometimes I've seen some CVs that are just painful to look at, painful to the eyes. I look at it and I think, I'm not reading that. There's CVs that are just full of spelling mistakes. And there's CVs that are just not well constructed in terms of the relevance to the role that they're applying for. So these are things that you have to have. When you send a CV out to a role that you're going for, especially if it's remote working, again, because I'm going to concentrate on this as a remote working webinar, you need to show things on the CV that make it look like you're going to be perfect for a remote working job. So and those are not all technical. So you have to think about it. What does this job description say? And how is my CV matching this job description? Remember that these days, most recruitment companies are full of recruiters that are interested in getting you a job so they can make their living. And like in every industry, in every walk of life, there are people who really care about helping you get a job, and there's people who only care about the money they can make from getting you a job. And the ones that are in the latter category, they're interested in CVs that match only. And not only that, but they have systems in place that only pick CVs that are relevant. So you've heard of the ATS, the automatic text readers. They look at CVs and they match words and phrases. And if the CV matches, then it goes into a special place where they can see it. And if it doesn't, it goes into the bin where nobody sees it, the virtual bin. But if your CV is going to get you a job, it first of all has to get you noticed. So your CV needs to be relevant. And this is something that there's not one good CV. There is a good CV for every job that you apply for. So that's very important. Then the interview, whether it's a telephone interview, whether it's an in-person interview, whether it's a virtual Zoom interview, you have to practice. Interviewing is a skill. You're not going to nail it the first time. Some people are naturally talented at speaking, naturally charismatic when they're in a one-to-one conversation, but they could be overawed when there's 3 or 4 people interviewing them at the same time. Some people are good in person, but not very good on the phone. Some people are good on the phone, but not very good in person. Some people have certain habits the body language that somebody can mistake as antisocial or unprofessional. These are all things that we have to overcome. We have to learn about ourselves. We have to control. So regardless of whether you're working from home or working remotely, you're going to go through an interview process. And if you're working remotely, probably the most important part of the interview will be your manner on the phone, or the manner on your Zoom call or your Google Hangouts, whatever it is. When you're working remotely, your interaction with the rest of your company or your customers, if it's one of those service desk roles, is going to be virtual or on the phone. And if you're not able to demonstrate good communication, good manners, as well as conveying technical knowledge, you're not going to get a remote working job. You have to practice this. And the only way you can practice it is to recreate the scenario. You remember England football team are notoriously famous for losing penalty shootouts. And they've been working on this ever since Italia 1990. and 30 years have gone by, and England still lose a penalty shootout. And every England manager gets asked the same question: why don't you practice penalties before the tournaments? You know you're going to be in a penalty shootout at some point, so why don't you do it when England's famous for losing penalty shootouts? And they say exactly the same thing. Every manager says the same thing. You can practice penalties, but you can't recreate the atmosphere. And you cannot practice interviews unless you're in interviews. So you have to go to more interviews, and you have to get more interviews. Regardless of whether they're jobs that you think you're going to get, you have to practice interviewing. It's a skill. Don't wait for that dream job to have that first interview, because you won't get the job. So this is very important. Then this is something I've been hearing a lot, over the last few weeks, years, months, whatever. This is something that I hear all the time. And speaking to a lot of the people that have called me from GlobalNet, this is actually the place I hear it the most. And it's understandable for various reasons. And I talked about this again on the previous call. So if you say, I can't get a job because my English is not very good. I can't get a job because I have a strong accent. I can speak English, but I have a strong accent, and I'm not being understood very well on the interview. I'm too old. I've had 2 or 3 questions saying, I'm 50-something, I'm 60-something, do you think I can get a job? I'm a single parent, so I need to work from home, or I need to leave early to pick up my kids, or I need to start late because I've got to drop my kids to school, or I have my kids are not at school age yet, and I can't afford the childcare services to have a babysitter, and I can't rely on my family to always look after. There's many reasons that a single parent says I need to be able to work from home, so I can't get a job because there's no working from home opportunities. I have no experience, obviously, is a very common one. And again, working from home, that is a big barrier, but there are ways to overcome those. But the one that I don't think is a reason, it's an excuse, is I have no qualifications, because everyone on this call knows that that's just a temporary state that you can fix yourself without too much work. It's hard to change your accent. It's hard to learn the language. You can't go backwards in time and get younger. A single parent situation is a single parent situation, and it's not something that you can change. But you can fix your qualifications. And Abdullah here, he's been doing this for 20 years. He's been there helping the community to get qualifications. Some are doing it in 3 months, some are doing it in 6 months, some are doing it in 1 year, whatever. But the I have no qualifications is not a reason. It's just an excuse that exists right now, and that's something everyone can fix. Everything else on that list requires you to really, really focus on what's important and how and make changes to your life. But have no qualifications, that requires just a little bit of motivation and £300. So, technical versus soft skills. Again, speaking from a remote working standpoint, I've mentioned this on the previous call as well. Which one's more important? And again, you need the technical skills to get an interview. If your CV doesn't show you have technical ability, you're not going to be matched for the job. So a lot of you that say I sent my CV but I haven't got any response. It's not because someone read your CV and threw it away. It's because nobody read your CV. A machine read your CV and didn't find anything that matched. Soft skills are important to get hired. So this is what I talked about, the interview. So you've got CV is important to get an interview. The interview itself, you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to convey messages. Your soft skills are important to get hired. So you've already got an interview. The reason they called you is because your CV already shows that you have that you match technically. Obviously, you're going to be asked some technical questions. But unless you're lying on your CV, you should be able to convey those technical skills. But your soft skills, how you convey the messages, how you answer the questions, they are very important. You're not going to get hired if you do not have those skills and you haven't practiced them. It's a skill, it does require practice. But every role requires a different balance. Some roles are more technical than others and require more technical ability. A software developer needs to be very, very technically ready to do development and not so much social. Many software development people that I know, I barely talk to them, but they're very, very good at coding. And when I do talk to them, we're not on the same wavelength. You know, they don't find the things I find interesting, and the stuff they find interesting, I don't even understand. So they don't need to have necessarily the best social skills, but if they're very good at their technical skills, they will get the job. Whereas on the other hand, if you're in support, service desk, first line support, your soft skills are very important. You can't be rude to your customers. You can't be miscommunicating things. You have to be able to smile. You have to be able to offer a customer service for first line and service desk roles. So your soft skills are very important, more than the technical skills. Your technical skills, you will learn probably the knowledge that you have by doing an A+, which is the course that you will probably do at GlobalNet. Only 10% of the knowledge that you gain doing the A+ will ever be used in the first line or service desk role, less than 10% in some cases. The other 90% is just additional knowledge that you'll never use when you do first line and when you do service desk. But you're going to get the job, not because you have so much knowledge that is way beyond what is required for first line or service desk. You're going to get the job because of your communication and your soft skills. So remember these things, as I've mentioned again on the previous call. The AAA standard, I call it, you know, the attitude, aptitude, and achievements. You have to be able to display in an interview that you have these three things. They call it many different things: team player, self-motivated, willing to learn, cultural fit. They have all of these many different terms that you'll hear about. But what it boils down to are these three things: your attitude. Your aptitude, that's your intelligence, your ability to learn, your ability to pick up things and understand what you're seeing, and your achievements. I've seen lots of people with CVs that say, yes, highly driven, self-motivated, high achiever. Like, in the profile, all of these big words, and then in their education, it's just their 2 GCSEs. People see that and they see that, well, look, when you say high achiever, what is your high achievement? What are you telling me that you've achieved from your CV? You haven't achieved anything, actually. You basically managed to get through school. And then what? What did you achieve? Right? So when, again, your qualifications, your certifications, your degree, whatever it is that you have, these things are showing your achievement. So they're very important to put on your CV in a prominent place. I've seen a few CVs from some of the GlobalNet students, and I look at it and I see the big profile, 6-7 lines of a high profile, on the profile on the top, and then I see some other information, some technical skills, and then on the second page at the bottom, CCNA. I'm like, you have a CCNA, put that should be right at the top, at the front. I am CCNA certified. If you're going for a network engineer job and nobody knows you have a CCNA until they go to the second page, that's a problem. So your achievements are important. You need to advertise your achievements. You have to be able to discuss your achievements. But all of those things show your attitude, that regardless of my language skills, my accent, my lack of formal education because of the situation I've been in when I first came to this country, regardless of all of that, I have achieved. I've learned to speak English. I've learned IT in English, and I've got myself certified and qualified. They see drive. They see someone with the right attitude. They see someone with intelligence. They value their education. They were motivated to start educating themselves. They were disciplined to stay on that program, and they achieved the certification status that they were going for. Every employer wants to see that, regardless of whether someone has a degree or not. They want to see somebody who took action and followed it through and finished what they started. Lots of people out there start things and then stop after 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, and then it's gone and they never achieve anything. So it's very important. The second thing, the star quality that I talk about. So again, the star quality is not, as I mentioned, you know, how many selfies you've been taking and who's asking for your autograph. It is situation, task, action, result. This is how you answer questions that you get in interviews all the time. Tell me about a time in your life where you faced a challenge. Tell me about a time when you fixed a problem. Tell me about a time when you did something that was commended by your manager. Tell me about a time when you faced a hard deadline, and they ask you questions that you have to then convey the situation so the person understands what that situation was and how important it was and what you were facing, then what you were told to do in order to resolve that situation, and then what actions you took to achieve the objective and what was the outcome. This is something that is becoming the format of more and more interviews over definitely the last 5 years, but even a little bit before that. And mostly it's people like Google that started doing this. Google used to ask really ridiculous questions and found that asking ridiculous questions like how many petrol stations are there in the UK were not a good measure of the type of person that they got. What they were missing was people that could handle and convey messages about their situation and explain it to somebody else. Because when you are working in collaborative environments, especially when you're working from home, your ability to communicate is very important. If you're working in IT and there's a technical problem, your ability to describe that technical problem to the rest of the people who are looking to resolve it and work with you is very important. So they test that by doing this type of question. Tell me about a time when this happened. And then they listen. At the end of your explanation, they should understand the situation. They should understand what you did. They should understand what actions you personally took, and they should understand the outcome. So hopefully I've covered the subject well enough for you to think about working from home and how you can go about getting there. I hope that I didn't take too long because, as I mentioned at the beginning, I want to leave a bit of time for questions. We still have about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. So if there are any questions, happy to start answering them. Or if there's anything that you think I haven't covered regarding remote working, just please let me know. And if I can cover it right now, I will.